Can I just ask, what did Kamala Harris do? You obviously disagree with her politically. She's a Democrat, you're a Republican. Yeah. But what did she do that was worse than lighting the fuse of an insurrection?
Listen, it was the... I put it to you this way. You were worried, we all should be worried about a deterioration in democracy. There's no question about that. I happen to feel that the policies that she represented would be just as deteriorating. By the way, why did Donald Trump do so well in 2024? Because he got a message. He was struggling going into the primaries. Ron DeSantis, if you remember, was doing very well. And then he got charged in New York with this criminal charge for this financial thing. And it gave him this message. Look what they're doing to me. I'm rich, I'm famous, I'm white. If they can do it to me, imagine what they can do to you.
Imagine a former White House chief of staff sitting on a stage and admitting with a straight face that the President of the United States took his election advice from a man who sells pillows on late-night television. That is exactly the humiliating defense Mick Mulvaney tries to pull off in this clip, claiming his former boss was simply too easily manipulated by bad internet theories to be held accountable for January 6th. I have worked jobs where if my cash register was short by $5 at the end of a shift, I would be fired immediately without a second thought. But apparently, if you are a billionaire politician, your elite defenders will treat absolute treason and catastrophic incompetence like a simple misunderstanding. I know this debate between Mehdi Hasan and Mick Mulvaney at London's Conway Hall goes back to exactly July 31st, 2025. But the mandate does not sleep on this stuff. We are bringing it to you today because the absolute cowardice on display here has not aged a single day. In this exchange, Mehdi completely traps Mulvaney, exposing how these corporate bootlickers will bend over backward to justify an authoritarian, simply because his administration protected the wealth of their mega donors. They will spin endless excuses about bad information, hoping you will forget how they systematically sold out the American working class. If you are sick of the political establishment treating our country like a game while everyday people struggle just to put food on the table, hit that subscribe button and join the movement. I am Silas Miller. This is Miller's Mandate, and we do not let these frauds slide. Now let us get into it.
Why do you think Trump is an authoritarian?
Because of the very things that Mick wrote about in 2020. He thought it was possible that Donald Trump would ignore the results of the 2020 election. That's a fascist. That's authoritarian. He's also a pathological liar because he continued after people told him, people who came into the White House and told him, you lost. And he didn't want to believe them. He brought in other people. No staff person could prevent him from doing that. He wanted somebody to justify his lies. He is a pathological liar with no moral conscience, no decency, no honor. And that is the problem. And all of those people end up being fascists. You were right after January 6th, and I think it's a disgrace that you now sit here and try to defend him when basically he's done nothing but get worse.
I know the information he was getting at the time. And if you were in the White House and every single person who walked in and said, you won, you won, you won, you won, what would you believe?
The evidence was to the contrary. They didn't say he won. His own lawyers told him he won. The Justice Department people told him they would resign if they tried to make him.
As George points out, the DOJ were telling him he lost. Bill Barr was telling him he lost. The guy's telling me he won was the My Pillow guy. Maybe he shouldn't have been inviting the My Pillow guy into the White House.
And
maybe that's disqualifying.
I don't like the fact that My Pillow guy was a senior advisor to the president.
Whose fault was that? Whose fault was that?
Donald Trump is ultimately responsible for his advisors. There's no question.
So why give him a pass then?
Because I understand how the presidency works. It's one of the most isolated.
There's never been a president like this. You know this.
That's fine, but that doesn't mean it's fascist. All presidents are different. Yes, he is his own thing, and I get that.
Isn't the problem, though, Mick, twice now tonight you've said he got bad information on the photo, he got bad information on the election. Maybe the President of the United States should be someone who's smart enough to reject bad information.
Again, it's fact. It's an easy rhetorical point. It doesn't make you.
Leaders should be smart.
It doesn't make you a fascist authoritarian if you don't do what you've just said.
Put that to one side.
Face it.
You accept that leaders should be smart and not dumb.
Yes,
basic criteria.
I would prefer people to be smart and not dumb.
And yet tonight you've told the audience that Donald Trump was dumb on 2 occasions. He listened to a My Pillow guy and he listened to an unnamed aide who gave him a clearly doctored image.
My difficulty with the Trump decision-making was allowing those people to be advisors to the president in the first place.
Okay, let me bring in Greg. Greg Swenson, do you believe that Donald Trump won the 2020 election?
I'm really not sure, but I think what's important here is one of the reasons he won in 2024 is because of the pressure from the press, pressure from critics, not only calling the fascist and a racist, but also they start accusing you. How could you vote for a guy who's a misogynist, even though he's not? It's one of the reasons he won, is that the people, got a little bit offended by this sort of judgment and this virtue signaling from his critics when he's done a lot of things really well. No one's perfect, but he's doing so much good for the people that voted for him, especially the working class people in America.
I apologize, Greg, I didn't introduce you to the audience. Greg is the chairman of Republicans Overseas UK, which is why I asked you about Trump and the election. Christina Greer is here, Associate Professor of Political Science at Fordham University, been waiting very patiently. Christina, is this just about liberals being upset about the way Trump speaks, or is it something more than that in your view?
I find that the defenders of Trump like to sort of talk about semantics and sort of get tied up in words. What we are looking at is public servants. You have served this country diligently. We know your CV. But you know better, yet you refuse to do better. I think that's the piece that is so frustrating with liberals or people on the left, where you were in Congress, you understand the separation of powers, you understand checks and balances, and what you're looking at right now in Trump 2.0, where he's steamrolling Congress, where he's ignoring the courts, where he's absolutely no respect for the Constitution, and in the litany of things that you listed, George, the one thing that you forgot was shame. We are dealing with a man who has zero shame. And what's even worse is that we're looking at people who were serving in Congress, who were Republicans, who actually know that this man is actually eroding our constitutional rights. And he's only able to do it because there are good-meaning Republicans who've just forgotten that they are here to serve the American people and not writing op-eds for one man and not serving one man.
I get the part that you don't like the fact that he has any shame. I get that. Is he the ideal person for president of the United States? No, but I'm okay with him being the president. I'm especially okay with him being the president over the other choice, because that's what we had. We had a binary choice. You don't get a chance to sit back. So one of the reasons I was critical of him in the Republican primary. Primaries are when we get a chance to go and say, you know what? I get to vote for the very best person I want. And in general, it's a binary choice.
Can I just ask, what did Kamala Harris do? You obviously disagree with her politically. She's a Democrat, you're a Republican. Yeah. But what did she do that was worse than lighting the fuse of an insurrection?
It was the... I put it to you this way. You were worried, we all should be worried about a deterioration in democracy. There's no question about that. I happen to feel that the policies that she represented would be just as deteriorating. By the way, why did Donald Trump do so well in 2024? Because he got a message. He was struggling going into the primaries. Ron DeSantis, if you remember, was doing very well. And then he got charged in New York with this criminal charge for this financial thing. And it gave him this message. Look what they're doing to me. I'm rich, I'm famous, I'm white. If they can do it to me, imagine what they can do to you. That's a very powerful message, because that is what the Democrats were doing.
That's not my point. You didn't answer my question.
I am answering your question, which is that a lot of us sat back.
Charging Donald Trump for crimes that he clearly committed is worse than an insurrection. So, I mean, I'm quoting Bill Barr. Bill Barr said he committed a crime in Florida.
My point is, if you're worried about the long-term health of the democracy, you could look very critically at Kamala Harris.
Okay, let me ask you this. Last year, you said the Jeffrey Epstein scandal would have no political impact at all on Trump's election chances. And you were right about that. It didn't. But it's certainly impacting his presidency. It's probably the biggest story in America right now. It's divided the MAGA base. Many conservatives are furious with him and his administration. Trump, of course, is a former close friend of Epstein's. They're furious at him for not releasing the Epstein files, as he promised he would. Is it because, as Elon Musk has said, Donald Trump is in the Epstein files?
No, absolutely not. He's in the files. A lot of people in the files. This is if there was something in the files that was particularly damning about Donald Trump, the files would have been released by the Biden administration.
No, not if it was damning about Bill Clinton as well. Not if it was damning about...
Can I please just... Okay. If it was really damning about Donald Trump, they would have released at least that part. My guess is, and it's an educated guess, is that it's particularly damning of very important people on both sides of the political aisle, which is why Trump doesn't want to release it and why Biden didn't release it either. If it was just about Trump, it would have come out.
You were the chief of staff when Epstein apparently died by suicide in prison. You were. Yeah, we checked.
So. Yeah.
Trump at the time baselessly suggested that Bill Clinton might have killed him, as he does.
Baselessly?
Okay. You think Bill Clinton might have killed him? Okay. Just checking. I don't know how loyal
Is Bill Clinton on the list?
I mean, you were chief of staff at the time. You didn't come out and correct him, so maybe you do share that insane view.
Not my job.
That literally is your job as chief of staff.
No.
You just said earlier, the chief of staff controls information coming to Donald Trump. Who told him that Bill Clinton killed him?
It's not the job of the chief of staff to protect, to correct the president of the United States. And as between who knows the job of the chief of staff, you know a lot about a lot. You don't know a lot about.
But you just told me the definition was to protect Donald Trump. So you failed.
The job of the president of the United States is to make sure he gets good information.
And he failed because someone told him that Bill Clinton killed Jeffrey Epstein, and you didn't protect him from that.
Did they tell him?
Yeah, he retweeted a post saying that Bill Clinton could have killed him.
So again,
I mean, right. You told me that was a job description. Last thing on Epstein. You were the chief of staff. Yeah. Trump does make this claim in 2019. The DOJ now says, the Trump DOJ, it was definitely a suicide, no cover-up, there's no files, and yet they've released a tape from prison, which is missing a minute of footage, and which it now turns out seems to have been edited. You were the chief of staff. Yeah. Did you see the full footage at the time? Oh. Is this the full unedited footage from the prison cell that night?
I have no idea, and I never saw the original film, but I did read about...
What did you see?
I didn't see anything.
So for 6 months after his death, you're chief of staff, you don't see anything about Epstein?
No.
You don't think that's strange?
Well, no, I don't think it was strange at all.
Why?
Because it's not the type of thing that rises up to the level of the President of the United States on an ordinary basis. It's not. No,
I mean, it literally is right now.
It is. That's dealing with the disclosure of the files, which are in the control of federal government. No, it would not have been the type of thing that we all sit around in the Situation Room and look at the video of.
But you didn't.
Of the Epstein thing. And by the way, the minute, I was reading about the minute gap, you may have read the same thing, is that apparently the video resets every single night
apparently.
At midnight. So
but there's a trust deficit right now with this administration. But I got to ask again, you're saying you didn't see any of the video stuff, you weren't involved, this doesn't rise to the level of chief of staff or the White House, and yet you're confidently saying that Elon Musk is wrong and his name's not in the files. How do you know?
No, I didn't. No, I absolutely didn't. In fact, I think if you go back and look at the tape, I said, I imagine that Donald Trump's name is in the file someplace. There's photographs of them together. Okay. So if there's a file someplace, which I assume there is.
Trump says his name is not in anything. So he's lying.
I could imagine. Why? There'd be photographs of him.
But he said it's not him.
I have to imagine his name is on the list someplace. He was a member at Mar-a-Lago. By the way, Trump kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago for being too weird. True story.
I mean, he also said he's a terrific guy who likes younger women. So. Yeah. Mick Mulvaney, thank you for being here. We've got more to go. We're going to talk to our very patient audience here at London's Conway Hall. We're going to go back to our panel of experts. We've got much more to talk to Mick Mulvaney, former White House Chief of Staff to Donald Trump.
Again, I know this Conway Hall debate from July 2025 is not brand new, but we have to dissect this moment because the establishment playbook has not changed one bit. What Mehdi Hasan exposed here is the exact psychological manipulation the elite political class uses to protect their own. Mick Mulvaney actually wants us to believe the most powerful man on the planet was just a helpless victim of bad advice. He claims Donald Trump was sitting in the Oval Office, completely innocent, while a late-night pillow salesman somehow tricked him into trying to overthrow an election. That is not just a lie. It is an insult to the intelligence of every single person watching. The Attorney General told him he lost. The Department of Justice told him he lost. His own lawyers told him he lost. He did not get bad information. He deliberately sought out the only lunatics willing to tell him what he wanted to hear, because the corporate elites running his administration needed to cling to power at all costs. This is what is so deeply infuriating about these corporate bootlickers. Think about how the system treats you versus how it treats them. If a working-class single mother accidentally puts the wrong information on a form for food assistance, the government will prosecute her. They will drag her through the mud and cut off her ability to feed her children over a clerical error. But when a billionaire president incites a mob that attacks the Capitol, his chief of staff goes on television and says it was just a simple misunderstanding. The double standard is absolutely sickening. There is one set of rules for the working class, and absolutely no rules for the corporate puppets who serve the ultra-wealthy. Mulvaney actually tries to use incompetence as a defense against authoritarianism. He says his former boss is not a fascist. He is just an isolated guy who listens to pillow salesmen. Think about the absolute arrogance it takes to sit on a stage and say that out loud. These are the very people who want to control your health care. These are the people who want to dictate whether or not you can afford a home or retire with dignity. They are perfectly happy putting a man they admit is dangerously easily manipulated into the highest office, as long as he keeps delivering massive tax cuts for their billionaire donors. That is the real quiet part they will not say out loud. They do not care who is in the Oval Office, as long as the wealth keeps transferring upward. And do not even get me started on Mulvaney trying to rewrite history about Jeffrey Epstein at the end of that clip. He tries to claim Trump kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago for being too weird. Mehdi Hasan shut that down immediately, reminding everyone that Trump went on the record calling Epstein a terrific guy who loves women on the younger side. These establishment frauds think they can just erase the past. They think if they repeat a lie enough times on cable news, the American people will just accept it. I remember talking to a guy I used to work construction with. He lost his pension when the company he worked for got bought out by a private equity firm. He did everything right. He played by the rules his entire life, and he got completely wiped out. Meanwhile, the politicians who legally bribed that private equity firm to destroy his life are up on stages like this, making excuses for treason and hanging out with billionaires at private clubs. It is a class war, and they are laughing at us while they wage it. We cannot let these people control the narrative. We have to tear down the system that values a billionaire's tax cut over the lives of everyday Americans. They want you distracted by their absolute clowns, so you do not notice them picking your pocket. If you are ready to hold the ruling class accountable and you want real political education with the receipts, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. I am Silas Miller. The mandate does not stop here.